Shit. You're okay.
Water's
Is it good? Am I good? I'm not good.
No, you're good.
Oh. We had snacks. Deliciously Ella cup thingies.
Oh, they're so good.
Highly recommend.
Not sponsored.
Hello and welcome to the Honest Property Top. Hello and welcome to the Honest Property Podcast. We are your hosts, Becky and Ruth. Or Rebecca and Ruth, depending on what terms we're and we are sisters in property investing. We've been investing in property together for the last 12 years, and we've been doing business together for the last 12 years too.
Have you been sisters for the last
3 decades?
3 decades
plus 3.5 decades. Oh, okay. So in this episode, we're going to talk about everything that's gone wrong. Yeah.
There's a lot to learn.
Where do we begin? Right. You can know everything. In another podcast, we talk about our property education. You can listen to that. Put a link to below to that when it's live. But basically, you can know everything. And just by the laws of nature, the longer you're in something, you're just gonna... Shit's just gonna happen. Naturally, whether you like it or not, because you, as much as you like, having knowledge can mitigate a lot of things from happening. Learning from other people's mistakes can also stop a lot of things from happening. What?
Your mouth gurgled.
Learning, that snack was good. Learning from other people's mistakes can help mitigate things, but you can't know everything, and you can't control everything that could possibly happen.
Actually, I would also say that the best people to learn from are people that have made a lot of mistakes, so that you don't make those mistakes.
But you know what? I don't think that many people share the mistakes that they've made. No. So here we are.
Yeah, a lot of people we see in many industries only highlight all the things that go right, and I think it's just as important to highlight all the things that go wrong.
Yes.
Or because it's just transparency, and that's important.
And it happens.
And it happens.
You can be a pro. I would say we're pros, but we've made mistakes to have to become pros.
We're not robots. Humans can be flawed, including ourselves.
Right. So where do we even begin? Do you want to begin somewhere? Okay, right. It's like top. It's also kind of like a top tips of what not to do, based on mistakes
if you want to take
made.
Those tips.
Yeah.
So when finding management, for example, we have really great relationships. We've had pretty good relationships with our management, but sometimes
you don't.
Our first experience with our service accommodation management, the very first one we ever used, was a lot of promises, and it was awful, quite frankly. And what not to do is have management who manage and they're not in the city.
Yeah, learn how to select your management team. Have a bunch of questions so you can verify who's actually a good management. I think we do have a podcast all about.
Yeah, we do.
And it covers how you select or question whether a management team is actually going to be a suitable and good quality management for you.
Yeah, I think we've discussed in that episode why we had a terrible time with our first management. But it's such a huge lesson we've learned throughout property investing as how key the people in your team are. Like, they are such key to making sure that your investments, your business runs like clockwork.
Yeah. And
another
if you have
book
poor
to
management,
read,
oh my God, the headache is pretty severe. So make sure you know how to vet your management company. Get reviews from other people who have worked with that company. How long have they been operating for? Who are their team on the ground? Do they have backup maintenance?
Are they responsive? We've dealt with recently,
Quite unresponsive
who have
management.
been really unresponsive. It's been very difficult.
And delayed payment.
And when you have several management for your properties,
we have multiple managements.
Yeah, then you can really see who's flagging and who's actually doing
really
an amazing
great
job.
Like we have one management, they'd forgot to send a significant payment. We raised the issue.
Quite like thousands of, like, at least $5,000, wasn't it?
No, it was the long-term letting. But we raised the issue. But it was paid within a matter of
days.
Well, it was a day.
Yeah, a day.
It was sorted out within a day.
But, like, these things happen in business. Like, it can happen, and they are such great management to us. They're very communicative, responsive.
It's learning to manage, like, property is never going to be passive. It's managing your management once you've got them in place and knowing how they need to do their job. But you need to know that you're a team, you're working together,
you're a team.
They're responsive, they're doing what they're meant to do, they're trying to do the best job that they can.
Exactly.
And you know that they are.
Yeah, we're very grateful. We are very grateful for management, otherwise we wouldn't have so much time.
Having experience with lots of different management companies, and we do still have different management companies. We have 3 different management companies depending on the area of our property and the type of property it is that we're renting. You can definitely see
the difference.
If
you only have one and you rely on the one, it might be hard to be able to see it from
to notice whether it's a good or bad service.
Exactly. And then I think a big thing that we've learned is you really need to have good communication, and if there's not very good communication and they're not responding for
you need to
several weeks, there's something wrong. Like, that's really bad. It's bad business, really.
So get good management and know how to find them, and keep working together, see how you can communicate better. If you are honest with them, be like, this is a situation, or like they're not responsive for whatever reason, because they have a new team member in
just prioritizing other things,
and they prefer to email now instead of WhatsApp or call. Like, say, what is the best method for us to make sure we keep our system, this whole system efficient and working. Because if something's and if you still do that and nothing's happening, then it is probably time. Like, it's just a case of bad management, and there's not much more you could do.
There's only so many chances with how you want to be able to run your investment, and if they're not honouring and giving many false promises, then that's a huge red flag, and it's time to go, and it's okay. Like, there's
more management companies out there,
natural people pleasers. We don't like confrontation naturally, but if it's affecting,
genuinely, if for Ruth and I, our approach is, if there's a member of your team, it could be management, actually it could be a contractor, if it's not working, amicably end it early. It's not your job to fix their business, because we are business to business people. We're not like, we don't have staff members. We don't want, like, we're leveraging off of management because we don't want to manage. So yes, there'll be a minimal degree of management, but if you're asking me to do manage you to do your job better, more than when that's not my responsibility,
then the reason why we're paying for someone else to be able to do the thinking and do the work, that's why we're paying for your service. And if we're having to do more of that thought process ourselves, and there's something wrong, because that's not what we're paying for. There's no hate. There's no hate to
our businesses. Just don't.
We know what it's
together.
like
to
run a
away.
business and not always be perfect and 100% with clients, and so we totally get it from being a business owner. But you shouldn't continue to be in a relationship with another business if it's not working.
So with management, have a short list of different managements you would approach. I would say, actually,
any recommendations. Actually, the best managements we've had is because they've been recommended, and the managements that we sourced ourselves actually and found them by ourselves have never worked out very well.
There was no reputation or connection for them to uphold, because, like, if you're recommended through somebody else, that could ruin their network of people who trust them. if you provide an honest review to your peers and say like this isn't working, then that's going to jeopardize their business ultimately. So it's better for them to have a better reputation with a network of people who are recommending their service to everybody else's network, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling. So basically, have backup of everybody that's in your team. It could be your contractor, it could be your management team. You don't ever want to feel like if things go sour or things don't work out for whatever reason with a member of your team, you have someone else to go to.
Yeah, that you don't want to feel like you're so reliant on a certain person in your team that it makes you feel out of control, because we've been there before.
Yeah.
And that's by, I think, not making sure that we did enough vetting, in all honesty. And every time we've ended up in that place, it's because we didn't vet enough.
Yeah. The next thing we made a mistake with was we bought a flat time. We bought a flat.
We bought several flats.
We bought this particular flat I have in mind. And the lease agreement.
I say actually, before you say that, we were taught to always be looking for a vendor who was like desperate to sell, because we were used to. We found distressed property. For one of our
distressed
first
property
houses.
Usually like good lower price properties.
It was repossession. Sorry, it was a repossession property, and so they needed to sell it fast.
The other reason that you can get a good deal on a property is that there's a reason for a vendor to want to sell quickly, and that could be because they owe some debt somewhere. There's been a divorce. They're moving country. They need to go. So we had a distressed vendor who was selling a flat, and the reason he was selling the flat is because there was issues. We didn't know this at the time we bought the flat. There were issues with the building as a whole. Yeah. There's still issues with the building as a whole.
He actually happened to be the developer.
Oh, it was just like
a bit layered. So we only found all of the stuff has come to surface recently, but he was also the developer of the flats.
Yeah.
And he was trying to sell really fast
because he owed a lot of money. He started developing this big project in a listed building in the center of a big city where we're from, and didn't have two pennies to rub together to get the project off the ground securely, and had a lot to pay back. So he was trying to sell these flats quickly to be able to pay back what he owed. I think he actually made quite a loss with that development. But regardless, it meant that the quality of the development and the structure of the building legally, like admin wise, was an absolute mess. We do not have a clear management for this property,
because the building management won't take. We're having difficulty with trying to have any sort of building management take responsibility for being responsible of looking after the leaseholders in this building.
So buying this flat, we were not able to obtain a management agreement to clarify who's responsible for what.
Yeah, even after a lot of chasing, because it's so layered. We've dealt with looking to see who owned the property, owns the freeholder, lots of shady stuff of people leaving, directors leaving companies.
Sus.
I won't go fully into it, but it's
basically, when you buy a flat, what I would recommend, if it's possible, is make sure you have a copy of what the leasehold and management agreement are like, and then find out who the freeholder is, what their contact details are, who the management company is, what they're responsible for, before you...
Thing is, you need to know all this stuff anyway, and we did know this stuff. But once we finally got the keys in our hands, it was like we were ghost. There was a lot of ghosting.
We were ghosted.
We
trusted that we were going to get this information throughout the process of buying the property.
We did receive information about who was responsible, but no one was replying to us or saying that it wasn't them.
Who's
They were
responsible for
saying
the
it
common
wasn't them.
areas? Who's responsible for the building structure itself? Where's the building insurance? And who do you call for emergency issues?
Yeah.
That, and like how much is ground rent and management and all this service charge going to cost? Have that all before. I would say have that all before. If I was ever, I don't think I would, ever to buy a flat again, I would want that information.
It's kind of put us off buying any flats.
Maybe,
never say never. It might be like 5 years' time we've bought another flat.
Never say never, but at this point in time, we don't recommend buying
We've
flats.
only, in all honesty, I've only ever had issues with flats.
When it comes to management structure and just like crazy ground rent.
I'd say maybe the only reason that you would buy flats is if you own the whole building yourself and then split them into flats.
Yeah, like you did a split title. Like, I get it. But yeah, because then you're in control.
Yeah, it's about feeling like you're in control of the asset.
So that was a mistake. Lesson there is get all the information regarding the management, if you can, before buying
or if you
the flat.
You know,
and research who those contacts are. Verify they are responsive, because...
But in all honesty, in our case, it was the whole thing was unclear. People were hiding. People were changing who management was. People didn't want to. It was as soon as the keys were in our hand, everyone disappeared. And that was... And we're still dealing with trying to find out many truths. Only one contractor has actually said as much of what we think is the truth. Maybe we'll go into it a lot more later on at some point. But in all honesty, that's one of the properties where we feel a little bit out of control because no one can give an honest answer. And partly why we are trying to make sure that this podcast and everything that we create is to just be as honest, because sometimes people just don't want to tell you the truth.
Ain't everything so far just boiling down to good
communication
and being honest?
Yeah.
Sorry, Spy.
But it is about good communication.
Yeah.
And if you're not being communicated in a way that you can understand or you can meet someone in the middle, then you have to
Red flag
and have the confidence to bring it up. And if you can't say it in person, then write it in an email. If you don't like confrontation,
I would say
write it in an email.
Get things in writing.
Everything in writing. If you have a call with anyone, have a follow-up email as well.
Yes.
Or try and do everything by writing.
Yeah, have written evidence.
We've been in situations where we've gone to small claims court.
Yeah.
Remember that builder who owed us money?
Did I block it from my memory?
Maybe, but he owed us money and he wasn't paying it back, and we had to take him to a small claims court. And before it got there, he realised he needed to pay us back.
Yeah. Fair enough. Oh, he realised.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Sometimes you got to do that. Being nice, like super nice, doesn't always get you everywhere. You can be
We're nice people,
considerate, and you can.
We're nice people,
but don't get pushed over.
So far, have options. If someone's not good at communicating, it's a red flag. Get out, because it's just going to be a headache later. Small claims court is an effective way to get people as a last resort, really. As a last resort,
yeah. If you can't come to a middle ground,
if they're not communicating,
and they're not communicating, you can't get anywhere, then sometimes you've got to have a third person. Don't be afraid.
Do I say have lots of options? Like, have backup options. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one service provider. Have backup options in case like they aren't performing for whatever reason, and you can end things amicably and walk away.
Yeah,
we don't escalate. We don't raise our tone ever.
You don't have to be awful. You don't need to be mean.
Just be like, your quality of service just is is not sufficient for what we require,
yeah,
it might be for somebody else.
yeah.
So
There's always there's a service that's designed for
someone
else, and that's okay. And it's just being okay that you're not being mean. Don't be mean. don't
Yes,
don't be awful to people.
No.
Just politely
and the other thing
pivot
was, so far, get everything in writing if you
get
can.
everything in writing. Yeah,
Because then you can use that if you do have to go to small claims
when
court.
we have been in situations where we didn't feel very comfortable and we didn't have any evidence. You're running a business and you need to provide evidence if you need to. You need to make sure that you protect your business or your assets or just yourself. Unfortunately, we're in a world now where it's just like that, and it would be awful to you don't ever want to be taken for granted, and you don't want to be disrespected.
No. So if I think Ruth and I are, we're in our 30s, so we never raise our tone or anything, like I said before, and we've got to a point where we've been in situations, you could probably hear in a previous podcast, the Lady Landlords one, where we've had instances where we have been disrespected.
We didn't say anything,
but it just means, okay, don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
That's all right, you've lost, there's no loss for us, but they've lost a customer, or I lost a client because of, plainly put, disrespect. So there's nothing there. How can you repair that? Not really.
Yeah.
Like, if the disrespect is not something you can fix easily. So
yeah, just move on.
On to the next. The other thing is checking your numbers and don't rush. Property is a business. If you're doing property investment, it's a business. It is not,
like,
unless you're in a really secure space and you're doing a passion project.
Yeah.
Property for the whole, if you're building a buy-to-let portfolio like we recommend, run it like a business. The numbers speak the loudest. If the numbers don't add up, don't force it. Work with your pessimistic numbers. Because you want to know that your business or your property investment can survive and ride out the toughest times. If it doesn't, then you need to abandon the deal, the property, and walk away. If you go do a viewing and you can see that the damage is going to be by, like, eating into your profit cost so much, then walk away.
Yeah, just because you like the look of a property and you think, oh, it's got loads of potential, but then on paper it really doesn't, and it's very clear on your numbers that there really is nothing else that you can do, walk away.
Because we've been in situations where we're like, oh, we can really make this one work.
Especially in the beginning when you haven't even got your first one and you're desperate to make it work because you're like, I have all this knowledge, I just need to put it into an investment, I need to put it into this property, I can make it work.
And it is tedious going on Zoopla, going through all of the properties,
viewing lots of different properties,
doing loads of different properties, doing all the numbers.
It's part of the process, and you
it's a numbers game.
Don't try and fast track
the research,
because you need to be getting out there doing viewings, especially if you're a newbie. You need to know what you're looking for,
and you might go through several months of not finding a property that's going to work out numbers wise for you. And that's okay. Don't just because like a couple of months have gone by and you haven't found something and you've done a million viewings, don't feel pressured to try and force the numbers to work on a property. It's just not. It's just
it's gonna
don't get emotionally attached. And when you go into a property, don't be like, oh, you're not going to live there. Don't think, oh, this would be so nice. No, it's not for you. It's for someone else who is living there and has different, you might not be the same avatar as the tenant who is going to be living there. You might be, but you really need to consider that this is not your home. This is the home for someone else who might not be anything like you. So
yes, you own the asset, but you are buying it for someone else.
Yeah,
you're just holding on to the value, and that's what you get from it. You have to remember that it's for someone else to make a home.
So don't get emotionally attached.
Yeah.
Because that's happened to us before. Or you're desperate because you just really want it to work and you're just tired of doing all these viewings and getting nowhere. The other thing is shiny penny syndrome.
Shiny penny syndrome, and we're going to cover it because we got to a point in our passion business where
we'd finished.
It's hard when you've built a business up, and it's so hard to let go when you know deep down you're ready for a change, because what you want from your life is not aligning with what you're journaling. And which is the truth. Yeah. A lot of soul searching and realizing that it was time to honor our new decade of once life. In life. And
we started our passion business. Our passion business was a pet care business, and we operated a really successful and heartfelt pet care business that involved doggy daycare, dog walking, dog boarding, cat visits. It didn't have to be cats necessarily. Sometimes we got the odd chicken or axolotl, but basically we covered
had some really amazing people that work with us as well.
We had a fully fledged business that was successful the last 10 years of operating. It gave us a healthy income. We tried to make it as remote as possible and it didn't work out. Anyway,
long story short,
that business, just regardless of the money or the love that we had for our clients and everything that was in it, and the fact that we got to be outdoors all the time,
so good for your mental health if you can get outside.
We couldn't be we were still having to do a lot of the work ourselves. We couldn't leverage it off of a manager in order for us to keep it, and still
the numbers no longer worked.
The numbers didn't work for us to enjoy. Our goal was to be location. We didn't want to be location dependent anymore with the way that we worked, and our business was
in our 20s. It didn't matter.
In our 20s, we were energized. We wanted to run around outside all of North Bristol, and now in our 30s we want location freedom. That's sort of taking a while to get there. I want to get location freedom and be able to earn remotely so that we could continue exploring the world on our terms and live the life we want on our terms.
Our hearts were, what's the word? We're earning. Is that the right word? Earning for this change, but we didn't know. Yearning. We're yearning for this change, but it's scary. It's scary to change direction.
We had to let it go. So we did, knowing that property was going to be the answer for time and location freedom.
So before we decided to sell our pet care company, we started learning all about rent to SA.
We were we need to replace the income lost from our pet care business by something else to do with property. And the trending thing at the time was rent to service accommodation. And
why are you whispering?
Am I whispering?
Oh, right. Sorry.
Oh, the trending strategy just so happened at the time that we were wrapping up our pet care business, and that was rent to service accommodation. And we were like, wow, this makes sense.
We
could
done
do
service
this.
Accommodation already. This sounds really good. And
it was a low barrier to entry. We were waiting for a property to be remortgaged before we could recycle the funds into another long-term rental. In the meantime, now that we've sold our pet care business, let's start a different property business that can still offer us location and financial freedom. And we thought that was going to be rent to serviced accommodation. It seemed quite simple. You basically you agree a lease with a landlord. You don't own that property, you just control it for them. Do it up, put it on Airbnb, booking.com, VRBO, to appeal to a variety of different guests.
Also,
guests.
It was easy to go, okay, that's going to be the new business, knowing that it was going to be a new business, because we already had foundational knowledge. We had so much experience. It was very easy and
now
quick.
we had the time because we sold the pet care business.
Exactly. We had our other properties that was giving us income. So we thought, okay, this is the time to be able to pursue this. We had time to learn more about rent to rent. And the only new factor was just the only new learning was contacting landlords, and that was the only thing that was new that we learned, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've gone through agents. We've done it through an agent before. No, we've not done it through an agent. No, we didn't do it through an agent.
No.
We've worked with agents as part of the process, but yeah, it's contacting landlords and asking for permission to use their properties. So we were like, okay, let's go for it. This seems quite straightforward as long as our service accommodations were profiting us. And they did.
Yeah.
They did at the beginning until they didn't.
And
the thing is, on our personal experience, we know that other people have done well with rent to service accommodation.
Yeah. So this is not like...
This is not a dig
no.
at all with anybody who this strategy is working for, but Ruth and I, like I said,
it wasn't making us
wanted location freedom, which meant that we had to pay for management.
Oh yeah, hit that point first. It wasn't giving us that every time. We loved being stuck into doing up properties, but I've got carpal tunnel on my wrist after giving birth, and it's still there. And every time we would do a project, because we enjoyed doing the process, I just was exhausted. I felt like a 50-year-old woman.
And with service accommodation, it's ongoing. You really need to refresh those properties, I would say, every year. Get the styling up to date again, make everything look good, because
the numbers didn't work for outsourcing other people to set up the properties. And then like manage enough to make enough of the profit that we were receiving from our owned SAs. So just making that clear, like our owned service accommodations were making way more than rent to SA.
Because if you're paying rent to a landlord, you're also paying for their mortgage. And then we were paying management because we wanted to be hands off with this business,
because that's how it worked for our service accommodations,
our owned service accommodation. So rent to SA actually
you're not just paying for their mortgage, you're paying for like the market rent, and if you can get a good deal to get paying them less than market rent for a longer period, I mean, that's even better. But then you add management in between that, and your margins of profit is even less. So I just want to make that clear. That's only what's happened with us. I don't know how, with other people that...
I believe that people who do rent to service accommodation profit because they manage them themselves. Or
you do have to get to like at least 30. A lot.
What, self-managing?
And then be able to have someone else manage it.
For a discounted rate?
No,
I don't even think that would be the case. It would make a difference. No.
Okay, scrap that bit.
Scrap that. I think people
profit well
if
when you are managing it yourself. And we realized, we sat down, had a business meeting at the end of the year to round up the whole year.
Added up the profits for each rent to service accommodation. We did 6 in a year.
Yeah. And we were like, well, we did hit our goal. Like we smashed it. We did what we wanted to achieve, but it was not profiting what we wanted it to enough for us to go, do we want to continue
The average income was not sufficient for us to continue with,
and we didn't want to manage, and that was our whole... We gave up management.
Managing them ourselves wasn't going to be an option.
No, not for the life that we wanted to, with the life that we want. And we say this, but I think we said this in another podcast already, is with your investing, it has to match what
your lifestyle is.
Want your lifestyle to be. Otherwise, you're a slave to a new job.
Yeah.
And it
for the sake of being in property.
In property. And I don't know if that's going to be controversial, but
I don't care. It's the truth. Our truth.
It's our truth, is that if we realize, we even considered going, okay, we will just continue to keep growing our rent to SA, but then realized it actually made us very...
The gut was speaking up
going,
and saying, that's not the way.
That's not it. It's not it. That's not where we want to go. We already have really great owned properties that because we started a long time ago, it was having lack of patience, in all honesty.
I think
patience.
Our rent serviced accommodation experience
taught us a lot.
It taught us a lot, and it was like, beware of shiny penny syndrome.
For us, that was a shiny penny syndrome.
What's your why? What's your goal? Do you want time freedom? Do you want location freedom? Do you want financial freedom? Are you setting up a business, or are you building an asset? It's kind of, they're different, because
there's no shade, by the way. There are so many people that really love doing rent to SA or rent to rent.
Some people like to be that kind of busy, but then we don't share the same goal then.
It was a really clear awakening of we were distracted. We were magpieing ourselves from what we really wanted at this stage of our life, and now we realize that actually this model isn't for us, and that we should have just stayed patient and continued just only growing our portfolio. But we like being busy, and without having our other business, we didn't have anything to be busy with. We didn't know how to be busy, did we? No.
So now here we are doing podcasts instead.
Yeah, this is like a huge reason why.
And we really enjoy it.
Oh yeah, really enjoy this. I think this is a
creative calling, but in a totally different way.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't know how we wanted to show up in property, and we've realized that doing...
So many people have asked us, how do you do it? Want more information, want more knowledge.
Yeah.
But because there's so much to share.
There's so many ways to be in property, and we thought, oh, well, obviously we'll go into rent to SA because that's what everyone's doing right now. And we realized that wasn't it. It never was it. It was doing this.
Yeah.
It was bringing information together from everyone who's within the world of property, and aligning and meeting with people who have the same.
We just wanted we wanted to create a space where we could express ourselves in creative ways, and we didn't realize it was going to be through the online world, at the same time as providing, I guess, being role models for people who
we didn't have.
That we didn't have for people who are like us, experiential type people. We'd rather take vacations than flash materialistic things online to prove that we're investors.
Because in the property world, which we've covered before, but I just want to say it again, is that in the property world, what was always shown was a different type of investor that we didn't subscribe to. And we really realized that if we want to create a space where we want to be able to see investors that are like us, then we've also got to create that space ourselves.
So I think that's one thing. One thing we wouldn't do is get magpied.
Don't get magpied
from your goals. Remember why you're doing it, and make sure that every decision you're making in your property investing journey is aligning with what it is you actually want your life to look like.
Yeah.
And when you're looking for role models online, try and find people who are like you.
Yeah.
And the internet has opened up the space. Like before, our role models throughout the whole thing
were all men
at a different age, different stage of life. So...
And we felt that we needed to be like that.
Work like that. Be as busy as that.
There was no room to have the
feminine energy.
But even for me to have a child, I felt like I wasn't allowed. I felt like that because it didn't fit the role models that we were looking up to.
Yeah. So technically that did cost us a lot of money, and
a lot of
wouldn't
lessons.
Do that again.
I wouldn't. We're not continuing that. We're focusing on growing our own portfolio.
Yeah,
and
we haven't ruled out serviced accommodation, but we're doing it more from a passion project space. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Yeah, we still have our serviced accommodations.
But we own them.
We own those.
So we have
better profit.
Better profit.
Right. So no more magpieing.
No more magpieing. There are so many ways to be in property, and it doesn't have to be what the new trend is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything else that we've done that cost us a lot of money? I think if you were right, our education was very expensive. We do have another podcast totally based on our property education. I'll also pop that down below for you to listen to next. But if I was going to do learn about property again, you do not need to pay the 25 grand that we paid for our education.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, we have no regrets because we've more than paid that back already, like within the first year of having learned that information. But we didn't have very many options 12 years ago. There was no Instagram. There was no online world where the cost savings of having education available online could be forwarded onto the person who was paying that for that education, if that makes sense. We had to pay for a big course in London that lasted basically 6 days with a 3-day mentorship. It was very pricey, but we're saying that you do not need to pay that much money anymore for your education. But it is important you do invest in your knowledge and get that education so that you can
implement it and not make huge expensive mistakes from the beginning.
Yeah.
Without it, you're going to be wasting a lot of time and a lot of money trying to deal with. It would just take you a lot longer.
Yeah. So Ruth and I want to create, we believe that nowadays this is education that everybody should have accessible to them. Obviously there's going to be different types of people sharing this education because there's going to be so many different perspectives and strategies that work for different people,
different personalities.
Ruth and I really want to, having tried like nearly all of them, there is a strategy that we wish we just did from the get-go and existed from the get-go that was basically the less stress, the easiest way to grow a portfolio sustainably that will give you time freedom, financial security, and location freedom. So if that sounds like you, then we highly recommend having 12 years of experience and building a portfolio. The part of our portfolio that has really been the foundation of a portfolio that is performing in a way that we want to grow because of all these things I just said, is our buy-to-let properties. So growing a buy-to-let portfolio is going to enable you to have all that freedom. And Ruth and I wanted to create something that cut out all the bullshit, cut out all the fluff, cut out all the shiny pennies that are going to distract you from building a strong foundation for financial security. And that is a beginner's roadmap to building a buy-to-let portfolio. If you are interested in
finding out more, then join our wait list. That's on Instagram, and
I'll put it in
YouTube.
the link below as well. I'll put it in the thingies below, so then you can sign up. Because that really, after having 12 years of experience, it's just the most straightforward way and the easiest way to just build a sustainable income that brings you all of that. So we just want to cut out the crap, basically.
We overcomplicated everything, and we've realized it's just keeping it simple.
Keep it simple. You can be greedy, I guess. It's human nature to try and stretch something beyond, just try and max out an asset. More that and the cost of that is going to be your
sanity,
your
sanity,
time,
your
or your
mental
location.
health,
There's
your
gonna be-
location. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I wish I wouldn't change anything, but if I knew everything that I knew and I was starting again, I would not. I would simplify it. I would simplify
a
everything.
simple, sustainable portfolio growth of buy-to-lets is the way, and Ruth and I are really excited to put something together that is accessible for people to learn from and just make a start.
Yeah.
Because time is everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's time in.
Yeah. And we don't want people to be distracted anymore from just overwhelm of information online. Like
there's so much overwhelm, and it's time in the market, and it always has been, and we've tried to pretend. People everywhere is telling you that it's not. There's a quick way to
go rich quick scheme
to
every,
grow.
Every year.
And like no business has ever been successful by growing too quick. And it's the same with investing. You have just got to be patient, and humans can be impatient, but that's the truth.
But the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to benefit.
Exactly.
So sign up to the wait list below. We'd be so thrilled to have you be a part of the club of people who are actually honest and growing sustainable property assets. We hope you have learned from the mistakes that we've made. They have been costly. And just a heads up, despite having all the knowledge, you're probably bound to make some mistakes going forward in the future. Your first property is not going to be the best property that you ever do. You're always going to do better as you carry on.
But keep on learning through other people's experiences, even with the mistakes, the good and the bad. And that's the only way to be able to take responsibility of taking action for yourself.
The numbers always speak. Let go of relationships in business that aren't working amicably.
Don't make it emotional. It is just business.
Yeah.
I know, like, property is a people business, and just in a respectful way, decline doing business with people who are not
respectful,
not respectful, or it's not working, and that's okay.
Halas, adios, bye bye. It's quite cutthroat nowadays. But yeah, where you can have areas of control in that is by having backup people.
Yeah.
I think that summarizes all of the mistakes that we've made.
Yeah.
Make sure you've got your paperwork before purchasing anything that comes to manage lease agreements. When it comes to flats, yeah,
that's it. I
think that is everything. If you
have any
have
questions, then let us know. And if you have any lessons on property vesting that you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear your stories as well. If there's any lessons that you can teach us as well, then comment in our DMs on Instagram or on YouTube.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.
Bye.
Bye-bye.